everything in a wrestling promo, all the classic great wrestling promos.
Mhm.
Never believe anyone if they say, oh, I just was going off the cuff.
Mhm.
Maybe they didn't write them down. Maybe they didn't rehearse them, but they definitely did them in their car, in the mirror. They definitely did them at the gym when you see these wrestlers walking around muttering to themselves. They definitely did work on them a great deal. I work on mine to the same level. I hold my standard to the same standard that you would hold a monologue on a TV show. It's field tested, it's reworked, it's voice memoed, it's listened to, it's sent out to the people I trust. If I know I'm going to have an interview, I spend every day between shows working on that interview. So I'm a big, like I said, memo and meetings about meetings. I'm a big preparation guy. What I found is when you know the material well enough, you give yourself license to forget it. And that's where magic comes up, because in every interview I've ever done with Tony Schiavone in the ring, what I've planned to say deviates because there's magic, and you cannot replicate the magic of having a live crowd, and a live crowd's going to take you on a different route too. So that's why it's really good to know your material. You can give yourself license to forget it and then find it again almost organically. I know that sounds really like methody and whatnot, but that's how I was trained, and that's how I prefer to do it.
You know what? Like, it's funny because like I remember this because Dustin said something the other day, and it like totally brought back like what his dad would say. It was just about like, I mean, the most important thing is your storytelling, you're suspending reality. And like he would always tell us to watch movies. Like Dusty Rhodes was always just like, where's your inspiration? And like Dusty, this is obviously not hard to believe, like took a lot of inspiration from Westerns and whatnot.
Shocking.
Yeah. And like, I remember when I was learning how to do a promo, like, of course I sucked at first, but like, eventually I did get good because he's like, keep drawing inspiration, keep going. And he was so great because he like was one of the trainers that would understand, like, I need to build her up and make her feel like a star. That way she exudes what we want. And so he always did that, but like I took a lot of inspiration from all of the characters I got to play at FCW from movies, and like that, it still helps me.
Okay, it was pretty clear and simple. You only had the finish, and then you'd get in the ring with the veterans, and they would heat me up, and they wouldn't let me do any move, any offense. I would just be like on the receiving end, and they were really stiff with me, and they were with all the young guys. And then eventually when they see that, you stick to the game and that you really want it, and then you paid your dues, eventually, they start giving you a little sunset flip or schoolboy or a little cartwheel, and let you do a little flurry here and there, and you keep on building up like that. But it was really like that. It was really like.
Do you remember your first match when you looked across the ring and you were like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm in the ring with blank?
Yeah. Well, I remember it was the wrestling school where I broke in. It was like a Road Warriors type tag team type of deal where, they had the makeup and they were built a little bit, and they were like really over with the crowd, and they would just, squash people up. And then I remember like I felt like every Sunday afternoon I was facing them, and at a young age I hated them, and they were probably good guys. I got to know them a little bit later on when they were older, and they were all right, and it could have been the other way around. I could have beat them up. but I understood the nature of the business. It was just like that. And eventually I went on the road, and it was another a total different story again.
Mhm.
I've seen guys like I've seen my first territory. I've been to Calgary, and then after that, I was not very successful in Calgary. I've been to the Maritime, where I was not very successful either. I was maybe 19 years old, 20 years old.
Mhm.
But at least I got along. You know, I was on the roster. So
Mhm.
let's say Sailor White was a big dude. He was one of the Moondogs,
Mhm.
and he would be drunk every night, and he would like let me backdrop him and do all my drop kick and make me look like for my age and for I was like almost like I was watching this guy on TV in Montreal. Now I'm wrestling him and he's bumping all over the place. He's 350, and then a guy came, for a local guy from St. John, New Brunswick, and he beat the living hell out of him. Open up his mouth and kill that kid, and just because I was part of the official roster, I was able to bump him all over the place. But the guy that came in just for to do a job, he got beat up pretty badly.
Do you know if he stuck around? Did you ever see him again?
I never saw him again.
He probably quit.
Yeah, he didn't pass the test.
I can wrestle. Like that's what I was doing before I did this. Was just you only get so far being a good wrestler, unless you're like Daniel Bryan. Like, like right. you have to like even he has a character. Like, but I just feel like you have to be ridiculously good to get over with just a character or just your wrestling. But even then, I think people still need something to grasp onto, to like relate to you with, because if you're just a really, really good wrestler, people in the audience probably aren't really, really good wrestlers, and if that's the only thing they have to relate to you, they're not going to actually like connect with you.
Right. Well, there are things that you can do in the ring, and they don't have to be like flips and stuff, but there are things that you can incorporate that would be things that a character like Danhausen would do.
Yeah, which is what I do. I do weird bendy things.
Right.
Like not necessarily flips, but like I fly in through the top rope and do the German suplex and stuff like that. And I started incorporating when I can, like weird submission holds that put, weird, like I do the octopus stretch, but I do the tilt-a-whirl first now. What's the Black Widow that AJ Lee was doing?
Yeah.
I do that because I'm like, that's a cool looking move, and that's a really weird like Danhausen move where I can pose and I can smile while I'm doing it, and it's a good camera move. I try to think of things for Danhausen to do that are good for a camera to get a hold of, and stuff that I can put my face out there on.
I have so many questions. I have so many questions. Okay, so he paid this woman to stay with him the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then she was taking the Polaroids of him with the fans.
Yes.
Was he the biggest draw there?
I don't think so. I think we could have drawn the exact same crowd without like him or like 8 other people. We just stacked names on top of names on top of names. Like Joey Mercury was there, and we were his first booking after he got fired from WWE. After the whole like ladder thing where his face exploded, and then he showed up to catering in various conditions I won't speculate on here. We were his first indie booking after that, like straight off of WWE TV. We had him. Again, we had guys from TNA. It was on Spike TV every, I think, Saturday night at that point. We had the cream of the crop of the indies.
So how did you get in contact with all these guys? Just because of who you had, and then this wrestler tells this wrestler?
Exactly. So it was a little bit of we didn't screw anybody over on pay for the first show. So wrestlers were more like, "Hey, you should contact Mikey," or I was kind of Mikey was the promoter of Name, but Mikey at the time didn't have a computer. So I would be, quote unquote, Mikey in the emails and the MySpace messages going out. And also I was helping with the booking. So it was a lot of recommendations based upon the fact that we didn't screw anybody over for money on the first show. And also, yeah, just we could be like, hey, so and so, we booked. Could you get us so and so's email? I know you guys are friends. Yeah, sure, easy. It's so I want to paraphrase something that a friend of mine, Joe Sposto, who I'm sure is listening because he's a dear friend, and I'll send this to him the second it goes up online. He used to do commentary for Chikara under the name Leonard F. Chikarason. And he used to hang around like ECW shows when he was like younger. And something he has said before that it's always kind of stuck with me. I'll paraphrase it, if I would have known how easy it was to get into wrestling, I would have done it before I did it. Like, as if you're willing to go set up like chairs, you're in. Ta-da! Like, that's the big secret. It's not, and because it's like such like a smoke screen. Like when you're on the outside, it's like this mysterious pathway. How do you get in? And then once you're in, it's like, that's it.
Open with your past, and your dad at a time sold drugs, and you even admitted that at one point you kind of considered that life, but then something changed you around. Was it an incident? Was it just that's not the life for you? What was it?
No, I think what it was there. It was a perfect storm coming, and I think my dad had the foresight to see it, having been in the life and seeing it so many times. When you grow up in a city like Cleveland, when people have reputations like my family did, people want to test you, and they know better than to test the ones who have already proven themselves, right? So what they do is they try to test the next generation. They try to see if you're going to live up to, what my dad did, what my uncles did, right? And so for a while there, me and my cousins were just like, you know what? Not only are we going to live up to it, we're going to surpass it. You know what I mean? So we were on a reckless course. You know what I mean? Like for sure there was going to be a problem at some point. You know what I mean? So I think my dad seeing that and knowing what he wanted for me and knowing what my potential could be, wanted me nowhere near, the repercussions of those behaviors, right? Which is, death or jail, more than likely. So he sat me down and just challenged me to try to be a better man than he was. And as much regard as I have for my dad, I took that to heart. Became the first member of my family to go to college, and I'm now able to live my dream and, go all around the world doing what I love to do. And my cousin Walter, graduated Harvard Business School, and he's in Chicago now making moves and great stuff happen. So, just two kids from EC, man.
You touched on something there that I think a lot of people don't understand, especially when kids grow up in the inner city and or anyone is in an area where like dealing drugs might be one of the only options. You said that you got tested as a kid. It's this vicious cycle that never stops because at a young age you have no choice. Like you're either going to let people fuck with you or worse, or you can stand up for yourself. So there's really only one of two choices.
And that's the thing that so many people don't understand that don't come from that life or that background. They're looking at it from their perspective, and they haven't had they were able to be a kid, grow up, and have every opportunity available to them. So it's unfathomable in their mind why someone would choose that route. And in reality, like you just said, most times it's not a choice. This is not just, hey, I want to be a criminal. No, this is, I don't want to die. You know what I mean? Right. So I have to do what I have to do to survive and feed my family or make sure that my family is safe. And sometimes that means doing whatever it is you have to do, legal or otherwise, right? Like if I posed the question to 100 people right now and said, hey, to protect your children, would you commit a crime? More than likely, if you're any sort of a parent 100 out of 100, that answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
If someone broke in your house right now with a gun and you had to kill them to protect your children, would you? Absolutely, you would.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So right there, it's like, okay, then we've established that it's not necessarily a question of morality. It's a question of survival.
Mm-hmm.
And when people understand that, they can start to see at 6, 7, 8 years old, you're having to make grown man decisions.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that carries with you your whole life, because you see the world differently.
You're obviously looking for an escape. You escape into sports. What's the first one you gravitated towards?
The first sport that I gravitated towards was wrestling, but
Okay.
back then I didn't know how to get into it. There wasn't schools all over the place like there is now, so I went into football. And as a young kid, I was a bigger kid, so I was too young to play with the bigger kids, but I was still bigger, so I was in this weird like middle ground. Excuse me. But then once I started playing, I enjoyed it. It was a way to get that aggression out, that anger out, and do it in a way that I didn't have to keep fighting and doing that stuff. So to be able to have that outlet was great. And then I went into amateur wrestling. Then I went into track and field and was doing, shot put and disc and all that stuff. And then once that took me all the way to college. And then once I left college, it was like, oh, okay, I discovered independent wrestling, which I didn't know existed. And I was like, oh, okay, this is another way to get here. And then I figured out how the process worked, and then got involved and got in touch with Ray Rowe and Jerry Myers, aka J Rock. Give it up one time. Mm-hmm. And the rest is history.
With everything that happened with COVID and how things run now, like, how do you think it changes wrestling 5 years from now? Because it's been a big shift. Like, what stays, what goes, what does the average wrestling organization or show look like?
I think it pretty much stays the same. I don't think much changes. I don't think much has really changed now, other than the fact that we just don't have live crowds right now. But I still think that we need live crowds. I don't think that this has shown anybody that wrestling can obviously survive without a crowd, but it's just so much better with a crowd. Professional sports, football, baseball, they've figured out, and they even look at the WWE with the Thunderdome,
right?
Baseball, all the sports putting, cardboard cutouts of people in the stands, because visually you just need that. You need there to be people. I don't think that changes at all. Personally, I would like to see the way that wrestling is presented overall. I feel like it's been presented almost the same way for like the last 40 years, 30, 40 years. It's the same, when one person talks to Chris Illuminati, I need to talk to you. Hang on, hit my music and give me a microphone. I need to go talk to Chris in the center of the ring in front of everybody,
yeah,
just things like that. I wish that things wouldn't always, and to be honest with you, to be fair, I don't watch a whole lot right now. I watch when one of my students or a friend says, hey, watch this, it was really cool, I'll watch then, but otherwise I'm not watching wrestling. So I don't know, maybe this stuff is happening, but I just wish that everything didn't have to take place in the building.
Yeah.
Like, at WWE, they had all these little sets, like everything happened backstage at the arena, whatever arena we were at. When we're all, why not do things at the gym? Why not do things at people's homes or at restaurants, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The one that bothers me the most, and I know people are fucking sick of it, the the camera that's eavesdropping on the two people having the conversation, like they don't know there's a fucking camera in their face and they're saying this thing that's secret, but like there's a camera right there. Like what else would we be watching? You know?
Yeah.
Like little shit like that.
It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
But it's presented in a way that, like, you know, it's supposed to be live sports, but then you have shit like that happening where it's the fly on the wall. Like, you can't have it simultaneously both ways, I don't think. Yeah. Without insulting people's intelligence.
Right. It's kind of a special day. Do you know what today is?
Oh my God, is it your birthday? Happy birthday!
It is not
I
my
didn't
birthday.
even do anything. I feel terrible.
Your presence is all the gift I need.
You know what? That makes me sound cheap, but thank you.
So today is, and I'm going to give you a little audio here. Let's get ready. Today is.
Oh, seamless.
September 21st.
Did something play over the audio?
Oh, you can't hear it?
Anything.
Oh no. Well, it's okay. I'll splice it in. It's September 21st. It's September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Today is literally. I didn't know it was September 21st. Like
that song was so when I was like maybe 7 or 8, I was real young. My family used to have these huge family reunions, like 200 people for like 7 days. And one of them, we had this like hoedown in a barn, pretty cool. And we were having karaoke night. And I remember trying to sing that song in karaoke in front of my whole family and just kind of ruining the evening. If you've never heard a 7-year-old try to sing Earth, Wind, and Fire with no rhythm.
Did you know the words?
I could read. Okay. I mean, it was karaoke.
Okay. But I thought, like, did you plan on that song, or did someone throw that song at you? Like, how'd that happen?
I think we were looking at the booklet, and it was the first one that, like, I recognized, or maybe my sister knew that I've heard it. Okay. Didn't mean I knew the words. Didn't mean I could do it, but I did it because I'm fearless.
So the reviews were not good.
No, I got kicked out of the family. Can't use the family name. Changed my name to Dalton Castle after that, and I've been on the run ever since.
Ironically, bringing it all full circle, the Earth, Wind, and Fire song September was the only song that I was allowed to pick out at my wedding.
What? Who did you marry? Hitler? You weren't allowed to pick up music at your own wedding?
No, I was. It was the only song I was allowed. You know when they bring out the bridal party and they like do the announcing.
That was your guys' entrance?
Yeah, that was our entrance, which is a fantastic entrance.
That is a good one. It was like, back in 1963. What? Right? That's the one?
It's not the one.
What's the song called again? September?
The da-na-na-na-na, and it goes on and on, something to remember, on and on. Let me see if I unplug and
September by the light, revved up like a douche, a September in the night.
Can you hear now?
Do you remember when it was like September?
I mean, it's a great wedding song, right? Yeah. So Hitler said that was okay.
So you can't put this on YouTube anymore?
No, I can.
Oh, cool.
No one's gonna go looking for us. You ever went to go see in the movies?
Absolutely. I think it was Shrek 2.
Okay.
It was solid. It was after I went on the Rosie O'Donnell show for a second time. Mm-hmm. She gave me Shrek ears and free movie tickets for Shrek 2. A lot of people don't realize I was on the Rosie show not once but twice. Mm-hmm. The second time, I believe it was for a Valentine's Day special. I also received a butt ton of Dunkin' Donuts because that's all she had in catering. Go figure. She's a big lady. Mm-hmm. But when I was a kid, I loved strawberry donuts, like as much as probably like Homer Simpson. Loved strawberry donuts. So
So I want to kind of get this straight. You're a kid on the Rosie O'Donnell show, and they give you free unlimited donuts.
Yep.
And all Shrek gear.
Yeah. I got to see Shrek for free before anybody else did. It was a big deal.
I gotta feel like they could have given you better stuff than that.
You know, I also personally, I wasn't compensated properly for being there. To be honest, I was the headliner for both episodes that I did. And look, that's showbiz. You know, it's ran by crooked people. I'll give you it's always these hosts. Look at Ellen now. Everybody, ooh, I love Ellen. She dances. She's so kooky. She's like, I think she like hits her staff members. I've just heard crazy stuff. So it wouldn't shock me if Rosie had some like secret dungeon where she just beats people with belts and I don't know. They're all creepy, man. All of them are creepy. I'm not a fan, except Conan.
Time I really dipped my toes into it. Is a lovely 2-show group called Fight Sports Midwest. It was myself and some friends, including a dude named Mikey Blanton, who currently runs the Black Label Pro promotion out of Crown Point, Indiana, one of the more successful indies currently running. But Mikey calls me up. I was, I think, first semester of college, and he's like, hey, so I got Scott Norton's phone number off of MySpace. I think I'm going to pretend to book him for a show. You want a 3-way call this with me? I'm like, sure. He's like, yeah, I'll put you on mute, whatever. And so he books him for a fake show that was never going to happen. He just wanted to see if he could book a wrestler. And it was super easy. And he pulled the wool over Scott Norton's eyes, for lack of a better term. And Scott Norton's like, hey, you want Raven's phone number? Sure, we'll talk to Raven. Sure. So then Mikey talked to Raven, and he talked to Disco Inferno, and the next thing you know, he had a full card booked for the show that was never going to happen. And Mikey took the responsibility of personally going through and canceling every single person off of this show. Like, he'd even made a MySpace event for it, just to convince them this was going to be real. But he canceled them. But what we came to after that was, wait, we could book wrestlers. It's not that hard. Just call them and they will say yes. So we pulled together some money and we booked a show. I think it was St. Patrick's Day 2007 in Portage, Indiana at the Portage Sportsplex, which is on independentwrestling.tv, streaming there. I don't have a promo code. Screw you, Jerry. You didn't give me one. So just go up and sign for the $9.99 a month anyway. But it's insane what we did, considering we had no idea what we were doing. Like, our main event for our first show was Samoa Joe versus Eddie Kingston.
Jesus.
And King had just broken his ankle too at CZW, and he's like, no, I swear I want the Samoa Joe match. I'm gonna come back early and I'm gonna wrestle, because Joe at the time, I think, he had been X Division champion. He'd had the Ring of Honor title run. I think he was about to beat Kurt Angle for the TNA World title. It was peak TNA Joe. Wow. he was a draw.
Went to the doctor today. Doctor said I should be out 3 months. Maybe come back at the end of March. That's not going to happen. I'm going to be back March 17th, with or without the doctor's permission. With a broken ankle or without a broken ankle. With pins in it or without pins in it. The reason's real simple. I have the honor to be in the ring with a man that it's a name in this sport. It's very hard to be a name in this great sport, and that's you, Samoa Joe. I have an opportunity to A, better myself, and B, prove to the people and to myself that I am that good, that I can stand in the ring with you, Samoa Joe. So on March 17th, whether either healed up or not, I will be there in Chi-Town, baby. Samoa Joe, get ready. Last of a dying breed. You're going to have a fight on your hands, brother, like you never had before. Holla at me.
this way, that the guy got a fucking raw deal. It's not as though he walked into WCW and said, give me the title.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and getting to speak to him when I didn't really know him or know the circumstance was not his fault. And he didn't go in, he went in with the best of intentions.
Yes.
He didn't exactly know what the score was, that he would have that backlash. And also at that time in WCW, that was the least of their problems.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So the theory that, he killed WCW is entirely incorrect. Having said that, I did watch Ready to Rumble with him before we actually fought. I was like, the best part was he didn't own it, so he had to pay for it. Number one. Number two, we watched it, and he's not really a prominent wrestler in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's, a comedic foil. Oliver Platt is the only actual wrestler.
Right.
And then Scott Kahn does a lot of shit too. So I remember looking at him going, why did they ask you to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I think I was the only guy who would have said yes. Which makes, a lot of sense. Because, James Caan doesn't, he's a serious actor. He doesn't really do that kind of stuff anymore. Neither does, I guess, Oliver Platt.
Mm-hmm.
But David's motto in life is really just to say yes and then figure it out as you go. And that's both freeing and also gets you into a lot of danger sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially, being his tag team partner. We would be getting in a ring before a match, and my phone would go off, and it was a text from his wife saying, please make sure he doesn't get hurt. He has a movie to film next week. And then I would look up at him and he'd go, I think I want to do an Undertaker dive over the ropes. I was like, well, have you done one before? He's like, no. And I was like, well, then you're not doing one tonight. It was really, teaming with him was basically a real life version of Clifford. And I was Charles Grodin and he was Martin Short. That's the best way I can explain my relationship with him.
Pressure on you because you were fourth generation? What generation are we?
I'm third generation.
You're third. I mean, there's been so many Guerreros that I can't even remember. I'm like, wait.
Yes, that's how we want it.
Yeah, I'm like, who's cousins? Who's her brothers? Okay. So you're third.
We're taking over now. No, but even still, we're confusing because people think Chavo Jr. or Chavito, as I call him, they're like, how's your uncle? And I'm like, he's my cousin. Actually.
He's your cousin, yeah.
My cousin, yeah, but like even then, like even sometimes like it's like uncle. Like I still I see him more as an uncle because he's older than me than a cousin.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's confusing. But I'm sorry, your question is do I feel pressure?
What was there pressure going into it? Like not just with wrestling, but with everything. Like I mean, you come from a legendary wrestling family. I mean,
I do. Yeah, I'm very blessed. I feel very blessed. That's like for right out the gate. Like I'm extremely thankful because it has opened up every opportunity for me because I'm a Guerrero and I understand that. But because those doors open for me because I'm a Guerrero, there's a lot of expectation like, oh, she's just naturally going to have it. And I think I will give myself this, like I did naturally have a charisma. I did naturally love to be talking to people and like the promo, it's more of a natural thing for me. And I did feel pressure because my mom is so good on the mic. And my dad, like, as we found out later in his career, was really good on the mic as well. And so there was a lot of pressure right out the gate with that. But with the wrestling, absolutely. I still feel the pressure. I have to put that pressure I put on myself and that other people put on me in the way back of my mind because it stunts me, honestly. Like all that pressure, it doesn't leave room for the fun of wrestling and for wanting me to grow and whatnot. It just like sometimes it could be so much pressure that it's stifling. So I kind of have to put that on the back burner. That's what I'm learning this time around with coming back in wrestling is like we're going to focus on having fun and I'm going to pay homage to my dad absolutely whenever I wrestle, but it's going to be about how I want to do it this time.
You decided what would be fun and this was the kind of culmination of that. Like walk me through how that happened.
So the easiest way I can explain this is when you're not having fun, because usually you're not making money when you first start wrestling, you should at least be having fun or like I don't know, you should be getting something out of it. And when you're getting nothing out of it, it sucks. Like I was like, wrestling.
You're talking to a writer.
Yeah, just like is literally either the best job or the worst job. And it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. So at the time, I was like, this is the worst job in the world. Why am I doing this? I'm like, I'm getting beat up. I'm losing money. At that time, I didn't feel like I was learning anything. And I was like, and I'm not having fun. And I'm putting miles on my car. I was like, this sucks. I was like, I can quit and just work a regular job, which is fine. Or I was like, I can try to do what I feel like doing and not doing what people want me to do or what I think people want me to do. And at that point, I just didn't care. It was like I took out the safety net, I feel like. I was just like, I'm just going to do this. And then I was let it snowball and evolve from there. I was like, I'm going to be a horror character because that's what I like. I like horror movies. And so I started to do that, and that kind of caught on. But not enough. It wasn't connecting because wrestling's already very niche. And then horror is niche. And then you combine those, and it creates a smaller crowd that's going to be into you. So then I was like, well, I started to like, I'm sarcastic and whatever in real life. And I was like, well, what if I let that part in and kind of be more of myself mixed with a horror character? And I was like, let's see how that works, because some of my favorite movies are like Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness and Return of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw 2. And those are all, hey, the first ones of these movies are very serious and just straight up horror movies. And then the second ones are very tongue in cheek and they have fun. I was like, if I'm having fun, the crowd will notice that I'm having fun, hopefully. And then that's what worked.
It had to be in 1987.
Okay.
I had an inkling of an idea who Hulk Hogan was because I'd hear that around me. My parents weren't the biggest fans of pro wrestling. They thought, hey, it's violent. We don't want our 5 or 6 year old son just watching violence on TV. We would prefer that he watch other things. Well, of course, that just made me want to see it more. That made me more curious and inquisitive about what pro wrestling was all about. Once early in, I'm sure it was a Saturday morning, I turned it on. I saw Macho Man Randy Savage with the Intercontinental Championship and flattening people off the top rope with the flying elbow drop. And I thought that guy was the coolest guy in the world. I went right to my bedroom. And my brother and I had beds that were more or less adjacent right next to each other. So I'm sure I took my stuffed animal Lorax, body slammed him on the bed, climbed to my brother's bed, jumped off, delivered a flying elbow to the throat of the Lorax. And my parents heard that, saw what I was doing, and then they said, no, absolutely not. No more wrestling. But again, that just made me fall in love with pro wrestling, just seeing Macho Man Randy Savage that one time.
It's funny you mention that. I'm also a Savage fan. As you can see, I got the little guy back here, and he's randomly around my house. But Savage seems to be the gateway drug for a lot of people. What do you think it was about him?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, the total package of Randy Savage. Like, there were the intense personality, the uniqueness of his voice, the uniqueness of his ring attire, the fact that he made everything about him was so theatrical. But then you see certain segments. He looks like he really, really is determined to inflict violence on people. I was just thinking the other day, or I was watching the other day, there's the segment at, I think it was the Royal Rumble, where Sensational Sherry is trying to get the Ultimate Warrior to give Macho King the title shot, and it's very suggestive. She gets down on her knees to beg, and the Warrior says no, and Savage sprints out of that locker room at top speed like he is truly, truly incensed and wants to murder the Ultimate Warrior. And you believed it. Like, for all his theatricality, he was still one of the most believable guys and one of the most athletic as well. So whether Savage was a heel or a babyface, I always supported him.
definitely want you to check out on Instagram. It's called Mike Slip Monday.
Sure.
And it's basically old wrestling clips of guys.
I've seen Mike Slip Monday. I know what you're talking.
All right, so I'm going to play 3 for you, and I want you to try and tell me how you would recover from these 3. So this is Sid Vicious, and he's cutting a promo on Hall and Nash. So hold on one second. I just want to refresh it again. Okay, here we go.
See, Nash used to wear any Halloween costume you want to, but you know and I know that you're only half the man that I am. And I have half the brain that you do.
Now, okay, first question. If someone's cutting a promo on you and they just tell you that they have half the brain that you do, do you let them continue or do you stop them?
So I have kind of this weird, this is really like business of the business, maybe a little too inside baseball, but it is.
I love inside baseball, so go for it.
It is a thought of promos. If you know who's winning in the end, you should always be cognizant of that. For example, if you feel like you're not winning this piece of business in the end, then go ahead and go for the jugular. Finish. If you are, do everything you can to set them up, protect them. In the case of what happened with Sid and the half the man, half the brain, it's only one slip that really changes where he was wanting to go.
Yeah.
As someone like Sid who looked like he did, all you got to do is throw the heat on yourself. That's it. All you got to do is throw the heat on yourself. And if you're Sid in that moment and you know what's just happened, it's real simple. Say, hey, I just said, I had half the brain, and obviously I'm not the smartest guy out here, but I certainly think I'm the best in the ring. So Scott, why don't you come to the ring and we stop this war of words? You won that. Why don't you come to the ring and we finish it here? That way you set him up, not come into the ring and not get yourself booed out of the building and not leave on such an awkward note. Anytime you put the heat on yourself, it's way better. It's endearing. My dad would tell you to look down or look up and laugh if you ever get lost. In this case, you were dealing, though, with Scott Hall, who's one of the most famous kind of put the screws to you in that moment.
Yeah.
But that's what Sid should have called him to the ring. And I don't know if that's even what happened after. We only remember that terrible slip. But, yeah, just do the old panic, just like when we're kids and someone's getting the best of us. Just turn it into a fight. The best thing you can do.
Drama and controversy in the toy business. Not everybody loves me in the toy business. There's a lot of haters out there.
All right,
a lot of people don't like Matt Cardona in the toy business.
Let's talk about that. Why?
Okay, number one. So when Brian Myers and I started the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, we started, we were 2 WWE superstars who, we had access to companies like Mattel or the ear of people who were running other toy companies. So we had this insider knowledge. We were calling each other the Michael Jordan and the Scottie Pippen. And there were some other people out there who had Wrestling Figure podcasts who thought we copied them. You can't invent podcasts. Everyone has a podcast. Everyone has something, right? It's all one hobby, all one community. So that's ridiculous anyway. But people they really believe that I think I have the best collection ever, the best collection in the world. That's not true. It's just a gimmick. I don't really think I'm the Michael Jordan of wrestling figure collecting. It's a catchphrase to sell more toys, sell shirts. But people don't like that. People also don't like that I will open up. I'll buy a rare figure, right, or hard to get figure, and I'll let him breathe on camera. I'll destroy that box. And people are pissed. But I don't care. I'm not buying this to resell it. I'm buying it for me. And they don't like that I'm taking one. They're treating it like an endangered species. Like I'm just ripping open something. And now they're like, oh my God, now there's only 125 left in the world. I don't care.
So who gets a little more into it? Wrestling fans or toy fans? Who's a little bit more really hard to deal with?
Oh man, it's bad because with the podcast you have wrestling fans, right, who are diehards, and then if you're a wrestling toy fan, you're a real diehard.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So good or bad. So you're either really into us or you really hate us.
I can't believe you have heat for for toy. I mean, I guess you would anything.
It's unbelievable. I got a package to my house a couple of days ago, and it had I guess a couple of weeks ago by now, and it just had the catchphrases and slogans of the other Wrestling Fever podcasts like all over the package. Like, give these guys credit, like, blah, because I bought something off eBay. And here's the thing now, if I'm buying something off eBay, I'd say 9 times out of 10 they recognize the name and they know where it's going. So probably not the smartest thing for me.
No, you need like a PO box and an alias.
I do have a PO box. Well, my alias was my real name for a while because
right, you ruined that.
Right, I ruined that. And I do have the PO box, but I'm too lazy to go there. It's like 20 minutes away. You know, I'd rather just come to the house. And, you know, Bill DeMott made me very mentally tough because there's going to be a lot of highs and lows. There's going to be a lot of mind games, a lot of politics, and you can't let things get to you. And if they get to you, you can't show it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You can't sell it. You gotta keep moving forward. And, you know, this I wasn't really taught, but I think it's very important, is that you can't just whether it's wrestling or whatever job you're in, you can't just love it when things are going your way. You know what I'm saying? Because it's easy to love it when you're the champion and you're undefeated and you're on every pay-per-view. It's easy to love it that way, right? You got to love it when it sucks. You got to love it when you hit rock bottom. You just got to love everything about it, because when you get that opportunity and you make the most of it and you get a great moment, it's so much sweeter. You know what I'm saying? If you want it so bad, you're clawing for it, and you're digging for it, and you're working your ass off for it. And I think you appreciate it that much more. And that's kind of just like, you know, the story of my career, you know, like always being ready. And that's my hashtag, my cute little hashtag on social media, always ready. Right. But I believe it. You know, if you want an opportunity and then you finally get it, well, shit, you better be fucking ready for it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, and you don't know, some of us don't know when that opportunity is going to be. So you always got to be ready. You always got to do the work. I believe that 100%, not just in wrestling, but in life.
He said like there was a couple times he went in the ring when he wasn't sure if the other guy on the other side of the ring was going to go into business for himself.
Not quite that. And Harley Race assured me when I interviewed Harley Race that Rick was a pretty tough guy. And Rick could handle himself. That even though Rick pretended to be a dandy, Rick was a great athlete and as tough as any of them and could handle himself. But there were incidents where the crowds turned on Rick, particularly in the Dominican Republic. He wrestled Jack Veneno. Veneno means poison in Spanish. And Jack Veneno was, an icon, a sports icon in the Dominican Republic. And at one point, the crowd was not only getting hostile, but the soldiers surrounding the ring started to act menacing, and they were armed with automatic weapons. And that's when Ric Flair grabbed Jack Veneno and put him on top of him and said, "You're pinning me."
Yeah.
You know, and so ostensibly it appeared that Ric Flair had lost the championship, but he didn't. The crowd was led to believe that before, in order for Rick to hightail it back to North America.
Personal issues that I have, or a lot of the way that I saw myself and my body was reflected on watching professional wrestling and the guys I saw in professional wrestling. So my kind of like golden era of wrestling is mid 80s to late 90s. And if you look at the guys that dominated at that time, you know, Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, these guys with these like larger than life bodies, kind of that no regular guy could really attain unless, you know, dedication. But you look at them as a kid and you're like, I got to look like that. And of course, you know, there's the influence of like, I got Muscle and Fitness. I read Men's Health. I saw people on Built, and what actually the three things that kind of made it pop out were, one, that all my favorite performers were always the chiseled guy.
That's what you wanted to see in the ring,
right? Number two, one of my favorite gifts as a kid was I got the Hulk Hogan workout set, which had the hand grippers and the weights and the like. I was going to be just like the Hulkster. I was going to look just like the Hulkster brother. Now and then, I looked at a lot of and until I put them all together and saw them, I saw a lot of pictures of myself as a kid. and my kind of go-to pose was flexing. And I wasn't even really, there was nothing to flex. It's just me doing this because that's what all my heroes did. They went like this, they went like this. So I thought when a camera's on, this is what I had to do. I mean, there's one picture of me, I might even put it in this blog at some point, where it's like I'm sitting on my aunt's rocking chair in her room, and like, I'm not even trying. I'm just like I don't even want to be in the picture, but I felt the need to do this. And
yeah. Kids of the 80s really struck muscle poses. They wore muscle shirts. They wore neon colored shirts. Some of them wore spandex. They wore wraparound shades. Very strange. And they're at like the actual way that they like performed in their bodies was very much there's a ton of photos of me doing that too, you know, like a ton of photos of me, a ton of photos of my brother, all popping poses that are most likely just derived from pro wrestling, which is deriving it from bodybuilding, you know.
Right.
Like, but it's not coming from bodybuilding directly, even though we did, you know, we knew, you know, we knew Lee Haney, we knew vaguely what was going on in that sport, but it was filtered through pro wrestling. Pro wrestling brought in that bodybuilding style, but the guys were differently chiseled too. Like they were puffy, puffy chiseled, a lot of them, you know, like Dino Bravo, puffy and chiseled. And if you look back at like the legs on a lot of those guys, with a few exceptions, pretty, it's all upper body heavy, you know. If you go back in and like look at the legs and the trunks and some of these guys, it's clear they're not, they're skipping leg day in a lot of cases. But the upper torsos, now again, there's a few guys that have like gigantic legs. Ted Arcidi wrote an essay about him in the 80s aesthetic that's on Splice today. Ted Arcidi was sort of like who I saw, and I was like, I've got to be that big. You know, he's like 5'10", 350, benching 700 pounds or something, you know, at that time. Like a powerlifting world champ, they tried to turn into a wrestler, and it just didn't work out. But I like that. And you know, I also wrote an essay about Rick Rude, different set of things. Like, why was Rick Rude hated by all of the women in the crowd? Because, you know, Rick Rude would come out. David Shoemaker has a good essay about that too. But like, why would Rick Rude come out and be immediately booed by everyone, despite supposedly being this like object of tremendous sex appeal? You know, even has his opponent on his tights half the time, and they all like, no one finds him attractive in the audience. You know, he calls them sweat hogs and pigs, and it's great stuff. Scott Steiner would do it later in his career too. You know, that was pretty funny. But why would, you know what I mean? Like all of this was odd. Like there was no other cultural niche, like you sort of noted. There's no other like thing where I experienced this type of culture at all. Like that, this was not what the other, like the adults did. This was not, if kids didn't watch wrestling, they weren't like this, you know? So it was very much this like little sort of lived in world, you know. It was very strange.
Hooch all night in Zima's.
What was your favorite hooch?
Like, well, it was the first night I had it. It was like a lemon lime one. It was very sour. But we only drank the hooch because we ran out of Zimas.
Do they still make Zimas? Did those come back?
Dude, my first trip to Japan, they sell them in gas stations. And I just loaded up. I was like buying loose Zimas, wrapping them up in my old socks and putting them in like my luggage to bring them home. I brought like a 6-pack of Zima home, and it was worth it.
And they were called Zimas?
Yeah, the classic little clear bottle.
Oh, man.
Sleek look. But the tops, they don't like screw off like a regular bottle here in America. It's like you pull a tab and it pops off, and it's really sharp. You know that Jimmy Buffett song where he's like talking about stepping on things? A pop top? I think he was talking about a Zima.
Oh, that makes sense.
In Japan.
What is that the oddest thing you've ever smuggled back home from wrestling?
Probably. Yeah, I don't bring a lot of illegal things home. And I don't buy a whole lot of souvenirs. I usually just kind of take little videos and photos. Anything that I take from different lands goes in my belly. It's usually food.
That makes sense. Did you keep any of the Zima bottles, or like did you kind of?
I don't think so. I always kind of, I always thought I was going back.
I don't think any of us are.
Question for you about RJ City, and it comes from Bobby Roberts, and he wanted to know which swear words remind you of RJ City and Warhorse.
Let's see. Well, Warhorse, clearly, he's always using the Tookish word, you will. We will get taken off the air if we swear on this television show.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see. RJ City, he says crapulence, pumpernickel, and what else? He says all the swears, actually. He said them on Danhausen's television show and almost got us kicked off the air.
Oh, no.
Many times.
Do you have a favorite swear word?
Well, Danhausen says up yours. That gets past the censors. What else? You can say also people try to tell Danhausen that up yours is a swear word. Absolutely not. If you're a baby, maybe. Also, they try to say that hell is a swear word. It's not. Not at all. Also, Jake something says a good catchphrase. He says, eat. Come here. He says, eat shit. It's funny. It makes Danhausen laugh. He tells people this. He punches them in the face. You'll censor that. Danhausen will not be seen swearing.
I will. I'll believe it.
Keith has a very eclectic taste in music, and
you're kidding.
Yeah. Talking. Listen, one song could be DMX. The next song could be this anime that you've never heard of, right? And then the next song after that could be Katy Perry, and you're like, what the fuck is this on? Like, what shuffle do we have on right now? Like, there's no continuity to it. There's no flow to it. It's up and down. You know what I mean?
Which of those songs does he sing louder?
Does he sing louder? Usually the Katy Perry stuff. Usually that's the stuff that he's belting out. You know what I mean? Especially like when you're driving, you gotta have a way to let it out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I remember, one of us was driving. It was probably me, and Ray was up, but Keith was sleeping, and I couldn't figure out how to change the song on his iPod. Like it was. I couldn't change it. Whatever the fuck he had it set to, I couldn't do anything with it. So we just had to ride for like 12 hours with all the bullshit playing, bro. It was the worst. Like there was nothing I could vibe to. There was nothing that I could, you know what I mean? Like hit that stretch, bro. We were so mad when he woke up. We were like, fix this fucking iPod. Your music is terrible. Fix this.
Did he do something to it to make it not skip?
I don't know. To this day I don't know. He never told me what it was, but it was the bullshit. Let me tell you, I'm sitting there tired, trying to find some good shit to wake me up. Nah, man, it was anime, Britney Spears, and it was like, bro, what is this? Like, it was the worst. It was the worst.
That sounds like the longest 12 hours.
Ever. The longest.
Start off with a question.
All right, then I'll go into my field.
With all this QAnon alt-right business going on, how hard is it to have people make assumptions about your last name?
You know what's funny? It's not any more recently than they always have. But once a week, I'll get, and I know it's coming, I'll get a Nigerian fella start following me on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'll get the, how do I become part of the Illuminati? And my, blanket response is, bang my mom.
Right.
And you're in, and they don't get it. Now, here's the one step further that I did take this. I talked to a local detective, and I asked him.
A PI?
Yes. And I asked him, how far can I take the whole charade of my name with these guys?
Right.
Because a lot of them want to get into the Illuminati. So I say to them sometimes, PayPal me $500 and you can be in. I said, is that illegal? He said, as long as you send them some type of paperwork or something just saying that you're part of this mysterious thing, you're okay. So I do have a piece of paperwork drawn up should anyone send me the $500 via PayPal.
You have like a Word doc certificate template?
Yes, it's got like the little Microsoft, like old, the guy that used to help you like in Microsoft.
The paperclip?
Paperclip, yes. He's down the bottom. and it says you're an official member of the Illuminati, and should anyone ask to be a part, they get that certificate, and I get their $500.
Congratulations, applicant. You are now in the Illuminati. That is so nice.
Now, flip side, I have had people pretend to be me and swindle women out of money. And the women come back looking for me to get their money back or ask where I've gone.
Right.
Yeah. So that's uncomfortable when I have to break the news to them that it's not me.
That's the problem with the Illuminati, and to be honest, also the Freemasons, is that you're so secretive that it's hard to verify anything.
It is.
And go ahead.
No,
well, my grandfather was apparently a Freemason. Really secret about it. Didn't really tell anyone. Apparently they have this handshake. They'll never say what it is. So you can go around telling people. I could say, hey, my grandfather's in the thing. Here's the handshake. And then people would just assume. You know?
How did you find out?
He had a ring. And that was pretty much it. And that's the one thing he had that was, from them or anything. And he, left it when he died. He had it. I don't own it. But that was just the one thing. And they seemed like the mafia, but only to do nice things. It was like a cross between the mafia and the Boy Scouts. It was very bizarre. And then I went to like a Pioneer Village kind of thing one year. And they had the Freemasons there setting up shop. I don't know why. I was asking because I want to know what my grandfather did. He didn't tell me shit. I would like to know. I said, I'm interested because my grandfather was blah, blah, blah. And they took it as I wanted to join. And they were like, you know what? There's a local meeting on Tuesdays at 7:30 when they let out. Just hang around there. Ask for Doug. Tell him Todd sent you. And I'm like, you know what, boys? I think we're good here.
Can you have secret societies anymore?
Well, look at me. As a wrestler, I'm probably in the worst kept secret society ever.
Well, I mean, part of that is your fault.
Yes. Yeah, certainly. I'm a huge contributor. I look around and I go, it's not a secret, guys. Why are we still acting like it is? We're not magicians. Let's all calm down.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think people like about you. You recognize that, like with most professions, most of it's bullshit.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of life is. But yeah, there's this huge. I never realized like how deep it would go being on the inside of the business and people still believing things and there's a right way to do things. I'm like, guys, this has been a mess from the beginning. Like it started as like this long con from the circus. So let's just enjoy it for what it is.
Has anyone ever come up to you and said what you're doing is ruining the business?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Old guys, those Jim Cornette kind of guys. Not that I'm interested in giving him any more publicity because his currency is controversy to get podcast clicks. But I simply point out to them usually that in 1925, the New York Times stopped covering wrestling because they knew it was fake. So I'm like, I believe my point was been made decades before me.
Luger talking to Hollywood Hogan.
Classic.
I am sick and tired of playing around with kids. I'm here to get on with the big boys. I am.
Okay, so Lex is tired of playing with kids. If you think that's bad, wait till we get to the last one.
I have a feeling I know what the last one's gonna be.
Okay.
I'm a regular these type of promos.
Okay.
So his promo walked a inappropriate line without realizing it was inappropriate.
Yeah.
A awkward word. Actually, Jake Hager, who Jake is a unique soul. We came up through OVW together. I'd never forgot. He one time cut a promo on two guys where he said, "I've got a surprise for you two little girls." But the way he said it was, he said, "I got a surprise for you, little girls." It was you expected like a troop of Girl Scout cookies to, Girl Scouts to run out and start beating these other guys up. It's phrasing and how we word things is very tricky. That is an unsavable promo. That is the best thing you can do in that case is the bad guy, or in this case Hulk Hogan, should have just started beating him up. Then people maybe feel bad for you and then want you to cheer you up, but that is unsavable. There, even who I feel like I'm a master of the interview, like that is no. There's nothing you can do to come back from that. I'm trying to really scratch in the time it would take to come up with a proper, concise response. This segment would have been over. So he's screwed.
All right. So do you want to take a guess on the last one?
Is it Magnum TA talking about? Yep, I know. I asked Tony Schiavone about it all the time because Tony Schiavone threw the interview from the studio to Magnum remote.
Right.
And I asked Arn about it all the time because Arn was there, and Arn takes a flat back bump on the like carpet but cement locker room floor, and Ole doesn't go down. And it's always funny to me how Arn did that. But I know the interview. If you want to play it.
Wait, are we talking about the same one?
Play it. Let me see. I think we are.
Okay. All right, here we go.
When we come to Philadelphia this time, there's going to be no mistaking what's going to happen. I'm going to come on you like nobody's ever come on me before. No baby doll at your side. Nobody to run distraction for you. Just you and I getting it on like two men should do. This is a...
It goes and it gets. He's like, he even says professional wrestling where the boys sit on the side and watch in the same interview. So
there's more to that.
So yeah, it doesn't get as bad as that initial moment, but it stays pretty bad. And then they run in the locker room and he fights off Arn, but Ole brings him down because they didn't get as many takes at it.
Okay.
And you got to be careful in wrestling. If you're doing an interview and someone's going to beat you up, or if there's a big moment, you can't get to the big moment if you screwed up, because once there's a black eye or a scuff or your shirt's ripped, you can't redo it.
Yeah, you can't redo it. Yeah.
And that is what happened in that very famous, uniquely a very sexual promo. That's what happened. They rip his shirt off. They beat him half to death. There's no way he could redo it.
Okay.
And that was back in the era of, and I'm pretty sure my dad may be responsible for this, the guys used to just rib each other on air.
Yeah.
So that's a rib of a promo that lives forever. The promo today is wild when you hear it.
Yeah.
Then though,
yeah.
The story, the real life drama between Magnum and Tully was so genuine, and they had the audience like in the palm of their hands. The people did the classic, they forgave it. They didn't hear it like we hear it now.
Yeah.
That's what saved that promo.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they were so invested in Magnum as a hero, so wanting to see Tully get beat. But it is a regular listen for me. It's a regular listen.
I've listened to it 3 times, 4 times just today, and I'm crying laughing every time.
Yeah. I mean, there's some heavy hidden lines in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to ask yourself, you don't want to blame Magnum. Whoever was filming it, whoever it was, should have said, hey, this sounds a little strange. It sounds like you're trying to fight him in Philadelphia. Yeah, but, hey, lesson learned,